count.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about college showcases and ID clinics. As Eric was saying, my name is Chad Prickett. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and it's a group called Columbus Goalkeeper Academy. We work with 6, 7 years old all the way to 24, 25 years old. I also work with Ohio Wesleyan University, which is a Division III school on the men and women's side, and an ECNL club, Ohio Premier. Rick, off to you.
My name's Rick Stainton. Hello and welcome. Proud member of the UGKA, and since its inception, which I think is a fantastic thing that we've built up here with all these educational series that we have for you. Currently the head coach of University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Prior to that, I was at Georgetown University, Seton Hall University, and Fairleigh Dickinson University. Currently also the East Region senior staff coach for USYS, and I've had a lot of experiences with the college showcases and ID clinics, sharing a lot of this information.
Awesome. So guys, one thing I'm excited about tonight is, if you think about me, I work primarily with the youth goalkeepers trying to get them to college. Rick is almost top down. He's in college and recruiting goalkeepers and players. So we're gonna hear two different perspectives on this. So here we go. Just kidding. Give me 1 second here. All right. So how to be seen or identified. For me, guys, there's 3 major ways to be seen or identified in the recruiting process, and we're going to hit on 2 of them tonight. So the 2 we're going to hit on: college showcases and ID camps. The third one, emails/highlight videos. We'll get to that at another date, but just make sure you're aware of that. Now, this right here, you need to recruit the schools, guys. I could have put that on every single slide. That's so important through this process here.
To Chad's point with that, it's very key for you to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and obviously putting in the effort. It's really the top maybe 2-3% that many of these schools are going to go and try to pursue a lot of those prospects. But the way we get linked on to some of the future prospects and recruits is by your communication first, by you expressing interest to us, and then that leading us to games to watch you. So, making sure that you're reaching out to all these schools that you have interest in, expressing that interest, and then that will lead us to come find you.
So, hey guys, through this process, if you got questions, hop on here. I don't want it to be a full-on conversation, but let's get those questions out there. So real quick, get into showcases. So what is a showcase? And I just Googled the definition. It is what you guys think it is. So it's a tournament with the specific goal of the players being seen and recruited by colleges or universities. Today, we're going to hit on 3 specific pieces of a showcase. One is how they differ. Not all showcase is the same. 2 is how to get noticed at a showcase. And 3 is how to show well. Anything you got, Rick?
Yeah, so obviously we're going to discuss a lot of that stuff, but some things to think about when we look at some showcases is, is it region, is it national? How do you get noticed? We just kind of talked about that real briefly. It could be through email, it could be through phone conversation, and then obviously we'll talk about performance as well, and how you can get noticed that way.
So how showcases differ, guys? I'm going to be a little bit politically correct, read between the lines. They're not all created the same. So like Rick was just saying there, like a more prominent national event, it's obviously going to attract schools from around the country. It's going to get all the big names in. A smaller regional event it's going to track your regional or local schools. Now, for me, I think both of those are good opportunities. Now, how do you distinguish, like if it's a national event or if it's a regional event? I think one of the go-tos is go to the website. Go on their website, look and see what schools have registered to attend and recruit. From a parent and like a kid standpoint, one of the things that I've noticed over the last 5 years is all of these tournaments are putting showcase in the name. And it really hasn't changed what the tournament was before. You got thoughts on that, Rick?
So I like the little note that you have on the slide there, chat, about the schools that have budgets and they can't attend every showcase. And I think this is important for prospects to understand and realize as well, especially when your teams are charting out what tournaments to go to. If a large majority of your team is looking to stay in the Northeast region, let's just say, well, a lot of the Northeast region schools will be at that tournament. So does it really make sense for your team to go out to a Texas tournament if a large majority of your team is looking to stay within that region? Because, due to budgets and things of that nature, a lot of those schools can't afford to go out to Texas to go watch them. So, I think that's an aspect that some of these tournament teams have to kind of consider when they're plotting out and charting out their tournaments to go attend.
So with you, when you were at Georgetown, did you guys go all over the country, or is it, how is that?
Yeah. So obviously, when you consider some of the different conferences, the Power Five conferences tend to have a little bit more of a budget and go to all the national tournaments. And even a lot of what's considered the high-end mid-majors, it really depends on where we gain and garner much of the interest. So for some schools that I've been at, California was a big market for us, or the Pacific Northwest. So anytime there was a big showcase out in California, we would go. But, we might not always have gone to any of the tournament in the Midwest because we never really got many of the prospects that maybe we pursued there. So every once in a while, or every so often, we may have gone to the Texas tournament. And when we do that, it's usually only one coach. It's not all three coaches that go out there. And again, that's due to some budgetary concerns. But, even now in some of the current situations, when I was at mid-majors or even at some Division II schools, we did look to go more regional. So we would go up and down the East Coast, tournaments in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic to the South region. We even hit up a little bit of the Midwest at times, but not always going out west. Unless we, again, create these connections with some of the clubs because they have a big interest of prospects who are interested in coming to the East Coast, then we would make trips as such, but it has to be something that's fruitful for that school too.
Perfect. So guys, big one, showcases. You're at a showcase. How do we get noticed? So before the showcase, be proactive. And I think Rick hit on this earlier. Again, look at what schools are attending the events. All right. Email your schedule to that coach or that school that you're interested in ahead of the time. And I would go ahead and include my highlight video and all the details. Hey, Mike Anderson playing at 3 p.m. on field 6. I'll be wearing a pink goalkeeper jersey. Then for me, a follow-up phone call or email is a good idea too. Now, time frame wise, so when do we reach out the first time? For me, 3 to 4 weeks before the event, get that information to whatever schools you're interested in. That way they have time to kind of get their schedule together, where if they're interested in you, they're going to get that down and when they can come and see you play. The follow-up phone call, email, maybe a week and a half out, just a reminder, get your name in front of that coach again. During the showcase, guys, this is about goalkeeping. The warm-up's massive. The warm-up's massive. Almost any good college coach, if they're interested in a goalkeeper, they're going to watch the warm-up. And when I say this, it makes sense to everybody. Is like, you think how many games you won 4-0 and you sit back there fiddling with your thumbs the entire time. If a college coach is wants to recruit you, they don't want to see that. So they're going to at least make sure they're there for the warm-up. Communication. So we got to have a presence, guys. We got to communicate. If, let's say, a coach walks up 8 minutes into the game and you're communicating, you're organizing, you look like you want to compete, I think that stuff goes a long way. Wrapped in with that body language. Then the last piece, which I think is massive, we're not all perfect, guys. We're going to make mistakes. So your response to mistakes or errors is huge. If you let in a bad goal, are you quiet the rest of the game? Or are you communicating and being an asset to your team there? Anything on those, Rick, before I get on to the after the showcase?
Oh, the before the showcase aspect, all great bullet points right there. And something I would note is when you look at the tournament college coach list, not every college coach registers for these tournaments, and there could be various reasons why. One of the reasons might be because of the number of emails that they would receive if they do register. So what I would encourage you to do, even if that college is not on the list and that's a college of interest to you, is to make sure that you go ahead and obviously let them know of your schedule. I know we're not talking about emails or anything in that type of communication today, but you know, just everything in the email should just kind of include your team name, your position, your player number, and your schedule. Clear and concise, obviously contact information as well. Just not a novel about when you were 8 and what you did, you know, and had for breakfast and so forth and so on. So be clear and concise with the email. And if they're not on the list, go ahead and make sure that you still shoot them an email. It might even generate that interest for them to go to that tournament if they didn't plan on going to it. During the showcase, as you mentioned, I am one of those coaches who, if I'm recruiting a goalkeeper, I will go to the warm-up. I want to see how, one, you handle yourself in regards to preparation. Two, I want to see maybe more reps, because in a game, we might not see any shots that come against you. So I want to see how your training habits are. And then 3, I want to see how you kind of work within the framework of team preparation, and obviously just, you know, like everything else that says here, your body language, right? How you're reacting, how you're getting prepared, your presence, right? What aspects are you warming up when you're doing that? And then when you're in the game too, all those bullet points, in addition to the response. It is a game of mistakes. Things are going to happen. It's how quickly you respond, and how you respond is a true test of your character. So we do look at all those aspects, as you mentioned.
Then, guys, after the showcase, again, follow-up phone call or email. All right. Again, when I get back to one of those earlier slides, we have to recruit the schools. We have to recruit the schools. So send another follow-up email, phone call. Keep in mind, it's tough for these coaches to get to every single game. So maybe you do reach out to them and they don't show up, or you don't know if they showed up or not, right? If you have the ability, send them some highlight clips from the event, and just check in with them. Hey, coach, here's some clips from the event. Our team, we won one, we lost one, you know, a couple little thoughts and opinions, and boom, that's it.
So Coach Rick, there's a question in the chat, which is a pretty good one. How do you deal with college coaches and communicating with college coaches when you receive the information from a showcase a week or less before the actual showcase starts?
So typically what happens is, if the schedules aren't out yet, we're also aware that the schedules aren't out, because we too are looking and searching for them about 2 weeks out, because we know there's a lot of changes that always occur. And sometimes the tournament host will always give us update emails as to what the status of that schedule is. So, if you guys are getting them at a late time frame, then obviously we're pretty aware that that's been happening. So, I'd still encourage you to communicate to us what your schedule would be. If you're a goalkeeper, another specific thing that you could put in the email is what half you're playing if you're split in halves, because that helps us with our scheduling. As to Chad's point here, it's tough for us to watch everyone. So, for example, if we're going with 3 coaches, we might see 6 games on a time slot if we all split up for one half. So if you're a goalkeeper telling us what half you're going to play, that allows us to arrange our schedule as such that we will have someone there while you're playing. If you get an email or if you get your schedule a couple weeks prior, obviously we'd like the communication earlier rather than later, because we try to prepare our schedules at least 1 week prior, and then we like to fine tune it. Those who email us 2 or 3 days, knowing that the schedule has already been out and released, of course, we put them in our databases. Some coaches may be able to add them to the list, but sometimes we can't add them to the list for that current tournament because, we have all our documents in order and we're ready to travel and stuff. So the earlier the better, but we also understand schedules don't come out as rapidly as they used to, and they're always changing.
One more question. What about how would a goalkeeper handle a situation where a coach doesn't warm the goalkeeper up? She's asking teammates to help her, but it's not an actual proper warm up. What would your suggestion be?
For me, you have to create that proper warm up. So the good thing is they know now in advance that, hey, the coach isn't going to do it. So I'm going to have a teammate. So what I would do is write down what I think a warm up should look like. And I'm going to have that conversation with the person ahead of time. And generally, what a warm up should look like, in my opinion, it's you have some handling in there, you have some distribution in there, you have some crosses and some shot stopping.
Yeah, and I'm going to take that question in a little different direction, because I think I know exactly what they're talking about. Is especially at a halftime, if you're switching roles, right? The 2 goalkeepers go down to the goal and they just kind of tend to volley to each other. Us as coaches, we're kind of looking at how you handle that situation, what the maturity is. If you're the goalkeeper who just came out, are you focused on helping your teammate and helping her or he to prepare for their second half of performance? You just kind of lollygagging and just kicking the ball lightly, and or not even kicking it appropriately and just, having the ball go in all different disarray. I think there's got to be a sense of still focus, and obviously a preparation that's going to help each other so that you could best perform. And I think, again, that's a true test of character and the commitment of that kind of goalkeeper to help support their teammate. Is that the direction they wanted to go?
Yeah, that honestly, both your questions, I think, answered it from different directions, but well said, both of you. Last question, then I'll let you guys move on. Do you expect different attendance from lower bottom ECNL games in a showcase versus upper ECNL games in a upper ECNL teams in a showcase? Or do you find it's dictated by who is connecting with the coaches to get them to their games?
I'll let you start on that, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, the tournament directors tend to schedule, and they always have a main field, and every team gets to play at that main complex field, I should say. For us as college coaches, we tend to try to stay at the main complex as often and frequent as possible, because it's where we're going to get the most bang out of our time. Those who are kind of on satellite complexes, it's going to be hard for us to commute back and forth. So it's not that, we're saying it's upper or lower level. What we're saying is, for time effectiveness, we're going to go where we could get the mass majority covered Those who have a staff of maybe that 3 coaches that could attend, maybe they'll send someone to the satellite site, but that's not always the case. So for example, maybe in my current situation, I won't have as many coaches coming with me. So, we might have to spread ourselves out at the main complex that has 20 fields. And obviously that's just being the victim of the circumstance per se.
Perfect. Yeah. And like in my experience with the ECNL girls, it seems like they're all going to get recruited. Obviously, if you're a top team playing against another top team, I think that'll impact the bigger name schools will be at that. But if you're talking specifically, if my daughter's team's not that good and we're playing against a good team, for a goalkeeper, I think it creates a great opportunity for us to get a lot of action. All right, guys, I'm going to move on here. If you got any other questions, don't be afraid to pop in and have a little chat with us here. So showcases, how to validate a school's opinion. So what I'm talking about here is how to show well at one of these events. Now, sometimes we've already talked to the coaches. We've emailed with them a little bit. Maybe we've had a phone call. Maybe we've been to an ID camp. So it could be we know the coaches a little bit. We want to validate their interest in us, or we've never talked to a coach. How do we show well? So for me, guys, like, look, start on this bottom bullet point here. Ideally, we perform really well. I mean, obviously, that piece is massive. But let's get into some of the controllables. Make sure you're on time, obviously. Again, proper warm-up is massive, but body language. We had an event with Ohio State the other day, and I was really, really intrigued how he was talking about how he'll watch a player. If a player gets subbed out, how do they behave when they're subbed out? How do they respond to their coach's coaching? How are they around their parents after the game? Are they disrespectful to the referee? So those are little details where you can make sure, and they're not hard, but you can make sure to check off and show well. For me, attitude and effort's massive. Then again, the response and making a mistake. You're going to make mistakes. How do you respond to it? Rick, is there anything with you? And here's a question I've got. Like, have you been in a situation where you're recruiting a kid and something's happened that has really turned you off or has really attracted you to that player?
Yeah, both's happened and on multiple occasions, right? I always enter these ID clinics, and one of the things I always address and express to all the participants is, all your job is to do is, be the best version of yourself. Just go out there and be the best version of yourself. And, that also means like not being the ball hog, but playing within the team framework. We are looking for something a little extraordinary, as I say. And what that means is, we expect you to be able to pass and receive and, dribble and take someone on 1v1. But is there something within those topics or those little technical aspects that makes you a little bit extraordinary? So, for example, are you dominant in the air? And if you're dominant in the air, can you express that somehow within the framework of the ID camps or, even in your own games that you go and play? If there's an extraordinary aspect to you, can you bring that light? Can you separate yourself from maybe some of the others who are ordinary? Because then us as coaches, we have to look at that and try to decipher, okay, will this help us? How will this improve us? And that's how we're evaluating potential prospects with that. We've had, to Chad's question, we've had players come to ID camps where we've seen them perform in the game, and maybe they're a little anxious because now they know, our eyes are specifically on them and some others. So maybe, that pressure kind of gets to them, and now we're watching and it's just a culmination of mistakes that are happening. So, that could potentially turn us off from a prospect that maybe we were kind of higher up on prior to that ID clinic. But the place, I'm sorry.
Sorry, within showcases. So I want you to think like a tournament or event. Is there anything that you've seen that like you're like, yeah, like that got me excited from a player?
Oh yeah, I mean, for me personally, and it could change from coach to coach. I like when I see players take on 1v1 in attacking positions and creating their own opportunities and sometimes taking risks. I do like that dominant player who can win the tackle on the defensive end and has that sort of bite and aggressiveness. I like that player who could win balls in the air on the attack and on the defense. And then when we talk about goalkeeper specific, the aerial game is becoming bigger and bigger, right? So the aerial game for the goalkeeper is important. How's your timing? How's your range? How can you control that box? The kicking game has developed and grown at a tremendous rate. So how's your range of kicking? What type of surface do you use? And can you find targets? Can you get the targets on the move? If they're stationary, can you hit them? Can you build out of the back and be that extra field player? And then obviously it's the shot stopping ability, right? 1v1 situations, do you give up rebounds? I know block saves are becoming the new fad and the new thing, right? But do you know when and how to use the block save? Because we're looking for goalkeepers who won't give up those second chance opportunities. Can you get your hands to the ball and secure it and keep possession for us? And decision making, right? Like, can you cover the space behind the backs? And do it comfortably, so forth and so on.
Cool. Let's see here. There we go. All right, guys. So let me make sure I didn't miss one. So, hey, we're going to get into ID camps now. We just hit on showcases. And again, if you got any questions, if we missed anything, bring it up, whether it be in the chat or just chime in. So ID camps, what are they? So real simple camp or clinic where there's college coaches in attendance with the goal of recruiting players. So for you guys, what should your goal be if you're attending one of these ID camps? So as a freshman, it's really like just experiencing it. What is it like? Maybe it's something you go through it to knock the nerves off for the next time. But obviously, too, we want to start to get exposure and get our name out there. So freshman year, nothing crazy. Sophomore year, if we're going our sophomore year, it's to get noticed, right? We want these coaches to start knowing who we are and want to track us. Then junior, senior year, it's time to get serious. We want the exposure from going to these camps, but we want to start the recruiting process. So we want them to be intrigued with us, where they're reaching out to us saying, yes, we're interested in you. And the last piece is what to expect. For me, guys, attending these, it's a great opportunity to get to know the coach and the staff. How they manage a training session. What is that school's like in that coaching staff's personality? Are they yellers, screamers? Are they really good teachers? Are they laid back and they don't really care that much? But that's a big thing, is you get to kind of feel the heartbeat of the school and the program.
And quick apologies to you, Coach Chad, for jumping on ID camps before we got here.
That's my fault.
Also, even branching off into some field player aspects and not making it so goalkeeper specific in the beginning there. But, I think I'm going to jump into the goals of attending here and the freshman, the experience and exposure. So freshman year, I think the experience part is something where you kind of cast a wide net and you go to some of these clinics to get the experience of maybe what that school's like, maybe get a taste of their environment, get a taste of the coaching, the level, right? You could get a taste on what the level's going to be like, and you could self-assess yourself. Can I play at this level, or do I have the potential of playing at this level? So, going freshman year to some of these clinics to gain that type of experience, I think is quite valuable, because then it's going to allow you to kind of funnel your thoughts as to what direction you want to go with this, because then the exposure aspect is really starting to get in there, right? Us as college coaches, we're looking at that sophomore age group, even though we can't communicate to you guys in regards to recruiting, but we could certainly evaluate and start making our lists for when we could contact you in that summer going into your junior year. So sophomore year is going to be more about the exposure. You might go to the clinics of schools you really have some specific interest in. And then obviously junior, senior year, it's all about trying to get recruited.
All right. So real quick, guys, for me, there's 3 types of camps. You have your development camp. So I think most of you guys know United Goalkeeper Alliance has that residential camp over the summer. That's a development camp. So that's where you go to learn, get better, etc. Then there's your corporate camps. So when I say corporate camps, that's your marketing machine. A lot of times they're national, they're all over the country. Some of them have bad names, some have good names. I get emails from parents all the time, should I attend this camp? What I'll tell you guys, I think there's opportunities at those, but we got to be smart too about attending those. Then the last piece is your college ID camp. And this is the one that we're going to talk about a little bit more. That's a camp that's hosted by a specific school. So if I'm at Ohio Wesleyan holds the camp. You're interested in Ohio Wesleyan, so you go to that camp. And that's the big one we're going to chat about here today. Anything you would hit on these 3 different?
Yeah, I'll touch on all of them real quick. I think all of them have value to them. All right. I could tell you I've contacted many who run those development camps because those coaches have seemed to work with that goalkeeper in intimate settings. It could be, private sessions before they even went to some of these development camps. It could be in clubs that they've worked with, so forth and so on. So I always seem to gain some really good information from coaches who've worked at those development camps with goalkeepers who have, come in, year out to them. The corporate camps, those bring in college coaches. Obviously, they help supplement some income by calling those college coaches in. What I would say is look at the colleges that are showing up. And if there's a college that you have interest in, then go ahead and attend the camp. If it's just something that's kind of like general or you don't have much interest, then I would really evaluate if you should go to something as such. However, I have seen many kids get recruited out of them or get identified in them. So it does have its value. I would just say really do your homework, due diligence. And before you maybe even register and you see a college marketing on one of their pamphlets, I would actually reach out to the college coach and say, are you actually attending and coaching at this camp? Because sometimes these corporate camps would put on the school logo and then that college is not even going to be represented there. So just make sure that they'll be in attendance if it's a school that you have interest in. And then the college ID camps, I think that's where you truly could get your bang for your buck. All right. It's going to be the college coaches that actually run the program. They're going to be running the camp themselves. They're going to be doing evaluations on all the players. They're going to be looking at them as potential prospects who could, maybe get into their recruiting cycle. And it also gives you the true or somewhat of a true experience of what it would be like working with that staff, being in their complex, being around some of their college teammates or future college teammates. It gives you a true sense of what that school's identity is. So I think they all have values, but in different ways.
All right, let's keep going here. All righty here. Let me move this down. Apologize, guys. All right, so college ID camps. So Here's something I'll tell you guys about like the college ID camp. So specific to a school. So for me, I think be smart about attending these two. And what I mean by that is if you're Division III level, should you be going to Ohio State to be getting recruited? All right. Another thing, and Rick hit on this, like the camps are there to fund the program and to help pay for like volunteer assistant coaches or what have you. So schools do this for business reasons as well as identification reasons. And when I say business reasons, part of it is, you know, I'm in Columbus, like Ohio State, they want to give all the local people access to their facilities. They want to give them access to Ohio State's coaching. So when I say for business reasons, it's not like bad and they're just trying to take your money. It's more to get involved in the entire program. So some big positives for me about school specific camps. And if you guys look, I've got a lot listed. It gives you the opportunity to get in front of the coach and be seen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to be seen when you're attending a school specific ID camp. Coaches get to see who you are as a player, but also as a person. Because often there's lunch. If it's an overnight thing, you know, they're going to see you throughout that day. But you get to know the coaching staff, how they coach, their personalities, which is massive because what we're talking about is a 4, maybe 5-year commitment with those people. So just getting to know them and say, hey, you know, can I see myself being coached by Rick the next 4 years? Or, hey, Coach Mike seems like I wouldn't want to be around him. But the one that I think gets missed a lot, guys, this is huge. It allows you to get to know the campus, the dorms, the facilities, the food, that local city and town. But then lastly, the travel. What is travel like from home with mom and dad to that school? Is that something I'm interested in doing? Or is that, that might be something that'll cross it off the list there. This one sounds goofy, but good way to meet potential future teammates. For me, I did a handful of camps. I did West Virginia and Kentucky. And I ended up going to Kentucky, which 2 of the other guys that were there, they're at the camp with me. So I knew them going into school, which, you know, that's a big life transition. So it's nice to know a couple people. And lastly, after that ID camp, you should be able to answer that big questions. Can I see myself going to school here? Anything on the positive, Rick, that sticks out? Or
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head on a lot of this stuff. And it's much of what I even mentioned throughout. So I think that's pretty well done.
Now, how to show well at these college ID camps. And this is one Rick brought up to me, is introduce yourself to the coach. And parents, I'm sure you can teach the handshake, look them in the eyes, and all that stuff. And if you can teach it, let me know. I'm trying to do it with my 6-year-old and she's not listening. Then ideally we perform well, right? Ideally we make all the saves. Our distribution's awesome. Rick's like, holy cow, he's a beast in the air. But again, like down at the bottom, we're going to make mistakes. How do we respond? And I love personally, I've got this one kid, he's a 07 boy. He's so competitive. So the way he responds is not smacking the ground. He's getting back up and he wants to compete. Love it. Then after that camp, follow up a week after. Hey, coach, I loved campus. I really enjoyed XYZ coaching points from you. Look, I love the school, and just let them know, hey, I'd like to be recruited, or I'd like to continue along in this recruiting process. Be the best version of you. Rick, do you want to hit on that?
Yeah, and I did so a little bit earlier, right? I mentioned the extraordinary part of it. There's a lot of ordinary. Can we find something that maybe separates you from the rest of the pack? And I'll even backtrack a little bit because, we do recruit character as well. We recruit those who have a will to win, those who have this competitiveness to them. And sometimes even as simple as introducing yourself and getting a little bit of that personality. And that's why I said that's a good way to kind of get your name in front of a coach before the clinic even starts, by just coming up and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so from whatever. And, you kind of get a little bit of taste of who they are and their personality. So, I think being the best version of you will link up with the performance part. Don't go out and play tense. I know it's always easier said than done because you feel like eyes are going to be on you. But, part of this is about having fun. And for you to have fun, you have to be a little bit relaxed. And what Coach Chad has said many times over is, you're going to make mistakes. What's your response going to be like? Can you limit those mistakes, right? Can you shake them off and move on and respond in a positive manner? And I think you could do that well if you're in more of a competitive but relaxed type of attitude. So to me, I think if you do that and do it at a sustainable rate and a consistent rate, then you could be the best version of yourself.
Perfect. There we go. Last one, guys, questions. And I'm going to quit sharing my screen here. So any questions?
I've got two, Chad, from the
Perfect.
chat. The first one was a follow-up from earlier in the presentation regarding attendance. Do coaches show up to games and see teams that are in the second division of a tournament?
I'll let Rick, I'll let you start with that.
So every school I've ever been at, and even as an assistant and a head coach, we do our best to see everyone who's written us at least once, or at least get some sort of evaluation, if it's through a club coach or a training session, if there's someone local. We always try to give the respect of seeing someone once. And one of the best lines I've heard from a colleague of mine who said it at their own ID camp was, it might only be 10, 15 minutes that we get to a game and we could see you. Well, hopefully it's a good 10, 15 minutes, something that would draw us back in. Because if it's not, then chances are we might not be able to come see you again. As I sat back and reflected on that, I said, that's very true, because we get hundreds and hundreds of emails and hundreds of contacts. And obviously we have our own list in addition to trying to pay respect to those who have expressed interest in us seeing once. So that would actually fall back on my sustainability. Can you sustain a consistent level of play? Because if you can do that, then those 10 and 15 minutes might be something worth grabbing our attention and having us come back and watch you again. So I know that's a long-winded way of answering that question, but I do believe there are many coaches that would look at that level. I can't say every coach would do that because many coaches, especially, in some conferences, may only just have their list and they might just go to those games. But, there's 350 Division I schools on the female side. I think there's like 230 on the men's side. Division II, again, there's only about 200 something on the female side, not certain on the men's side, but then there's like 400 each on the Division III side. So, when you talk about all those programs, it'll depend on what their staffing's like.
Your earbuds right here.
All right, we're good.
All right, cool. If they could get to some of those different level games,
So for me, it obviously matters. If you're whatever, you're that top tier, I think it kind of validates to some of the coaches, this person should be good. Now, what I'll tell you guys, I've got a boy that was on a second team that went Division I, played at West Virginia. I've got 2 girls on our second team, so ECNL RLs that are committed to play Division I. So does being on that second team make it a little bit less attractive to maybe that top tier schools? Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not an opportunity. And I've seen it 5, 6, 7 times in the last 3 years. Right now, I've got a goalkeeper on our girls' side on the second team, and I think she could be one of the best goalkeepers I've ever trained. And what the deal is, from a development standpoint, we got her late, so she's not developed to up to here like she should be right now. But in my opinion, she has the ability to be way up here. You know, so for a Division I school, I think that they're definitely going to recruit that girl on the second team. So there's a lot of variables there. But yeah, I do think if you're at a major showcase, you're a second tier team, you're probably not going to get as much attention, but that doesn't mean you can get to that level. You just might have to find another way to do it.
Another question. They've noticed recently at ID camps that there's a cap number for goalkeepers that they will take. Many have a waiting list. Is there an average number of GKs that a college would take for an ID camp?
Yes, I would say, because many of the college ID camps that I've been at, could range from 8 to 12, because it depends on the number of fields you have, because every ID camp is going to play either full-sided or small-sided games to a goal. So, if you only have 2 fields and you're going to play 11 a side, well, at most, you're probably going to get 4 goalkeepers in on each of those fields. So that's 8, right? So that's why they usually limit and cap the goalkeeper aspect of it. But I do see a growing goalkeeper specific ID camps at different universities that are occurring, which is another way to kind of showcase yourself in that manner. But yeah, when it's usually involving a lot of field players, they'll cap it just because of field space and the number of goals that they'll be going to.
And that's spot on. We're running into the same thing. We've got an event in July, and it's 60 field players and 12 goalkeepers. And what Rick said, that's the reason, because we don't want to be we don't want the goalkeepers just sitting there doing nothing. That's a lose-lose for everybody.
Question, a little off topic, but in the presence of recruiting, it's around highlight videos. What specifics do you want to see in these videos, and at what age should they start putting them together?
If you can get an email address from that person, I'll send them that entire presentation to Eric. Okay. So for me, like your platform, I like YouTube or something that's easy. I don't want commercials or ads, I should say. And what that looks like for me, it's that first 30 seconds, I want heat. And what I mean by heat, I want your best clips. I don't care what they are, if it's a cross, shot stopping, distribution. Can you get me hooked where I'm like, I want to watch more of this kid? Now, a well-rounded video, in my opinion, is then going to show me distribution. It's going to show me crosses, shot stopping, maybe some breakaways in there too. And I think that is enough, because again, what we're trying to do in that situation is we're trying to garner interest where that opens up a dialogue. That's all we're trying to do there. We're not trying to send this video and expect to get an offer off that. It doesn't happen that way most of the time.
Yeah, and to echo Chad's sentiments on some of this stuff, obviously shot stopping is a big aspect of what goalkeeping is. So we'd like to see some saves in various different types of way. You do want to be hooked in the video as soon as possible. You want to try to keep it to like 3 or 4 minutes tops. But another aspect of goalkeeping that I think we all have to realize is 80% of our play is now the kicking game. The way we receive pass backs, the way we distribute, how we become that field player. So I'm asking more and more about the goalkeeper's feet in the field of play. Obviously, I'm still very interested in their shot stopping. However, the way our goalkeepers are playing, I want to make sure that they could kick ball and they could receive a ball and they could handle it under pressure. So I'm asking for more and more clips on how they deal with those type of situations. So if you could involve that or include that to some degree, that would be great. And then I think the other question was as to what age. I would say freshman year, sophomore year, start compiling stuff and try to keep within that year's range. So for example, if you're a junior and you're still giving me freshman kind of clips, I don't need that anymore. I want to see more recent, more current. So kind of keep it current as you move along, and try to keep it maybe within that 2 to 3 month time frame. So you should always be kind of freshening it up so that you could keep it current.
I have 5 questions, and I'd like to try to keep it close to a 9 o'clock conclusion. So we're going to run, let's call it quick answer here if we can. How many do colleges have private or invitation only camps? If so, what's the best way to get invited? Rick, NCAA regulations say what?
They cannot. It's got to be open to everybody and ages.
I'll
leave it as that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you did good. Just stop there. Chad, go ahead, buddy.
So Rick's leaving it as that. There's like a workaround, but they shouldn't be doing that. Real quick, guys, I sent a file, and it more or less goes through like the whole college presentation piece, not just the 2 things we're focusing on today. If you want to look at that, go ahead. Sorry, Eric.
That's okay. That's okay. Again, there are NCAA regulations around college coaches hosting private ID camps. Please know that. Can you explain the difference between a high school team camp at a college and an ID camp at the same college? What are the pros and cons?
But the high school team camp is usually just like a preseason prep camp. It's still probably a way that could be evaluated and recruited as individuals for that program. But that's really just trying to get your team prepared for the upcoming season when you talk about team camps as such. The ID camps are literally what they are phrased to be. They're putting you in a training environment that might be a little bit similar with activities that you might see in the college scene. And then obviously the afternoons are typically game format, everything from small sided to full sided. So that's for you to go out and express yourself as a player and show us what you can do. So you could be evaluated for a potential prospect of the program.
Cool.
I agree with that. And at those camps, I typically see D3 coaches run those team camps. And if you're interested in the school, I just tell the coach. I'm really big at being upfront and 100% honest. Just say, hey, Coach Mike, appreciate you coaching us this week. Just want to let you know I'm interested in your university. Love to chat with you after the week's over. Boom, simple.
Okay, guys, couple last questions here. I have 3 left. 2 of them are going to come at you. Any benefit to an 8th grader doing ID camps?
It's experience. It goes back to what we were talking about: experience, exposure, and then the recruiting. So in 8th grade, it's about the experience. But I would really think about the school that you're going to participate in, right? If you're saying you're going to this big major conference and it's an 8th grader that might not be at that level, it's going to turn them off very, very quickly. So just make sure that they're within the level of being able to perform and not exposing themselves to a dissatisfaction type environment.
Cool. Chad, this one's for you. Any benefit to signing up for a showcase as an individual, such as Jefferson Cup, if they have already if they're already on an ECNL team?
We just had a girl that got recruited from doing that 2 or 3 weeks ago. So yeah, like for me, like what's the negative? You know, like let's say the team sucks. That you know, that for me is like an ideal situation for a goalkeeper to get a ton of good video, or to be seen making a lot of good saves or what have you there. But yeah, we just had a girl, again, one of our second team girls being recruited by a Division I school now from just doing that.
Cool. Last question I have in the chat. Adam, if you can, guys, we have a couple minutes left. Do college coaches care if a club player plays for their high school team or not, Rick?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yep. That's okay. Do college coaches care if a club player plays for their high school team?
I chuckled because it really varies. You know, I know many, including myself, that would almost want you to play for your high school team. And the reason I say that is obviously, you know, there's different levels of high school, but when you look at the college game, it relates more to the high school game in regards to you're representing your school, you're wearing your team colors with pride, you have the camaraderie of the other sports supporting you. The environment is just really close to what a college environment would be. You're going to school, then you're going to practice, then you have games, right? So forth and so on. And to me, it's just another opportunity to get yourself on the ball. You know, you might not be a leader on your club team, but in high school, you're developing your leadership skills because maybe you're the team captain, because you're maybe one of the better players or one of the better communicators, or just purely you have the character to help lead that team. So I think there's traits and characteristics that you can gain. Plus, you're also competing for championships. I mean, on the club, we say we compete for championships, but we all know, well, I shouldn't say it or phrase it like that. A lot of it is just for the exposure. A lot of it's for showcases. A lot of it's for, you know, weekend games to help further develop and obviously become the best player that you could become. But when you go to a high school environment, obviously you're trying to win a division. That's what we do in college. You're trying to win the state championship. We're trying to win, again, the conference championship / the national championship. So there's a lot of similarities in regards to the competitiveness or the competitive makeup of high school to college. So I encourage it.
Chad?
I encourage it unless the high school program is complete crap. And so what I mean by that is like your coaching's poor, your team's poor, and it just erodes your joy away. Now, I'm not one of those coaches that says, oh, like, and even like if you still have the joy in the team is not that good, that's fine, right? And what that joy might look like is the relationships with the kids on your team. These kids, they're like little pros already with the demands that we have on them. So there's a piece with high school that I love, the reset and getting away from the demands of the club. So, and I think for a goalkeeper, I almost like it better because with our kids, we'll have a target going into high school. Hey, Abby, you made a lot of progress on crosses. I want that to be a major focus for you this high school season. I can't wait to see you afterwards and see what you look like. So can they step out of their comfort zone, because it's not like, it is important, but it's not as important, you know, and look to get better in that different environment.
Cool. Guys, thank you. Chad, Rick, 30 seconds to a minute. Final thoughts. Let's get everyone on their way.
I just want to simply say thank you for the opportunity to get to speak with you guys. I hope there was something that you could all pull from what we've discussed today. And we wish you the very best with your future endeavors.
Yeah, thank you. For me, any feedback, things we need to add, keep in mind, the goal is those two specific items, those camps and showcases. What did we miss? What would you want more information on? I'd love to hear it. But thank you, guys.
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much for attending tonight. We appreciate you. Please know this recording will be in this Friday's UGKA newsletter. If you're looking for a copy of this recording and you want to get on the newsletter, please send your email address in this chat function. I'll record it, put you on our distribution list, and you will see the recording this Friday. We will also publicize this on social media. Our next parental education will be in March, and it's going to be on or dedicated to the grassroots goalkeeper coaches and how do we train and what do we focus on with the youngest of goalkeepers. Coach Chad, Coach Rick, we appreciate your time and your expertise tonight. Thank you for all you do. Everybody, have an awesome week, and we'll see you. If you're on the UGKA or a member, our next session is next Monday night, not Sunday, and we will feature Coach Ian Foyer, ex-U.S. men's national team and West Ham United goalkeeper, Monday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Everybody, have an awesome night. Thank you.